Everybody, welcome to Celebration Bar Review. My name is Jackson Mummy. I'm really glad you're with me today. And in today's message, we're at about 113 days until the next bar exam. So if you're watching or listening at about that point in time, you're right at the right spot. This is the time, a little under 4 months. For those of you who know you're taking the next exam, this is definitely the time to be underway. In light of this phenomenon in America called alternative facts, I thought it was particularly appropriate to talk about. But actually, this goes back quite a few years ago to my days as a high school debate coach. I had the privilege of coaching the national champions in high school debate for a couple years in a row. It was a pretty ambitious program and a big team. We traveled all over the country, and high school debate was typically held on college campuses. If you've ever been involved in forensics or debate in high school or college, you probably know something about this. It's a world unto itself. You've got brilliant young people doing amazing things who then later turn up in your bar review courses a few years later, and they turn up in political office, and they turn up in all of these incredible places, and you go, wow, I knew that person before they were a U.S. House of Representatives member or whatever it might be. In any event, it was really an interesting process. And I was thinking back to one weekend that I spent on the campus of a big school with orange alligators that run around and way too many national championships. My purpose for being there back in those days was that I loved to sit in the judge's lounge waiting to go in and judge round or work with the kids. And they always had a big stack of jelly donuts, huge stack of jelly donuts. And I ate a lot of them. And while I'm not anything great in terms of my shape today, trust me, I was really wildly overweight back then. And those jelly donuts are a big part of the reason. In any event, I enjoyed back then, even though I owned the bar review, I liked having the weekends away with my debaters. They were really brilliant kids, and I loved the way that they thought and looked at the world. And I also enjoyed being in the judge's lounge and listening to the various and sundry discussions about the events of the day, though no one could have foreseen the events of today, I'm sure. But every once in a while, as was the case whenever we were on a college campus, we would be in a tournament that was actually being produced and paired and supported by the law students of that school. And at this particular event on the campus with big orange alligator, I was amused to hear a third-year law student who was being asked questions by an undergraduate who was actually getting ready to go to law school. Now, of course, there were lots of questions about law school, and that was all interesting, having been through law school and taught law school. And it was great stuff to hear, but then the talk turned to the bar exam. Oh my, you can imagine what that did to me. And at that point, the undergraduate, in the way that only a young and not yet experienced person might do, said, "Tell me about the bar exam." And of course, this third year, who remember has never taken a bar exam, only knows about the bar exam from what they've heard from other people, proceeds to tell the younger student everything about the bar exam. They would make some of the people in Washington and on the TV news shows today jealous with their absolute conviction to talk about things that were absolutely untrue. Almost everything they said was untrue. It was just downright wrong. They had alternative facts all over the place. And so I sat there and I munched on my jelly donut in silence. And I actually thought back to the old Broadway show, You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. And there's a great song in which Lucy tells her little brother Linus all about how the world works, all of which she says to him in a very earnest and heartfelt way, and all of it is completely wrong. Things like how snow comes up from the grass, which kind of makes me feel like the world we're in today. It's all earnest and heartfelt, and most of it's not true. And when it comes to the bar exam, this was absolutely the case. And I thought, this is the kind of information that new law students and members of law school typically get subjected to. Now, the information that this 3L was sharing was things like the only way to pass the bar is to memorize literally thousands of pages of material. You will have to study 18 to 20 hours a day, every day for 7 weeks. It's the only way to do it. You will have to memorize and put together these huge checklists. You'll have to learn all these mnemonics. You'll have to learn this way of writing called IRAC, and it's the only way you can write, and the examiners only want you to do that. And the exam is completely impossible, and no one can pass it unless they take the big box bar review. That did it to me. That was the one that got to me. Everybody's got to take this course, at which point I think I began to choke on my jelly donut, and I might have drawn some unwanted attention to myself. And someone at that point, I think, pointed out or whispered to the 3L that maybe it wasn't the smartest thing to say with the owner of another bar review sitting in the room. And so our 3L kind of looked a little flushed and embarrassed and then quickly exited the room. What's the point of telling this story except to say that I was a little fatter and I ate a lot of jelly donuts and maybe I didn't do as much coaching as I should have back in the day, although the teams did pretty well. The real point right now is that at this time of the year, as results are starting to come out, which they will over the next few weeks, if you're taking the bar exam coming up, whether you have to take it as a repeat bar taker or a first-time taker, you're going to hear from a lot of people who are all purported experts on how to pass the bar. My Google feed, my Facebook feed are all filled with these things all day long, every day. We're going to unbundle this. We're going to do that. We've got this new algorithm. We've got something here. We've got something over there. It's interesting stuff, but when I go to look at the credentials of the people who are talking about how to pass the bar, most of them don't have any credentials at all. Some of them have taken the exam as compared to my Riel, who had not yet taken the exam. But I think the problem is that if you were told what bar review course to select or how to study or what to do by someone that hasn't taken the exam, that would be really foolish on your part. And I know how this works on law school campus. I know that bar review reps are out there, and that's the way it's done. But it's really not a great way to get information. Today, there's a lot of information out there about how to study and what to do. The problem is a lot of it is just really garbage. There's not much science behind it. There's no pedagogy. There's no track record at all. When I think back to having done this for 30 years, I realize that there are only a handful of people who are still in the industry that were around when I began. Very few of us have had that longevity. And perhaps the reason for that is that it's real easy today to just show up, put up a website and say, I'm a bar review mentor or a bar review trainer, or I've got a coach or a class, and you're there for a year or two and then you're gone. That's not a great source of information at 113 days out. I think that as compared to our well-intentioned, good people on law school campuses who are bar review rep, all that they're really trying to do is get themselves a free course. They're not trying to help you out. They're not trying to help you find the course that's best designed for you. Now, if you're already in a big box bar review course, okay. But if you're not in one of those courses and you're trying to figure out what course to take, then my suggestion is look at the track record, look at the testimonials and the comments from people who've taken the course. On our website, there's a page filled with those testimonials. If you're in our course, you already know about our approach and what we're doing. And I want to just say that in that circumstance, follow what we're asking you to do. It works and it works well, and it's to your benefit as you begin to get into your study. Don't listen to the people who don't have that much expertise who are telling you to do something different. You hope when people go off on their own life that it'll work out for them, but oftentimes it doesn't. And it's often that some of these potential students of ours come back with their tails between their legs saying, maybe I should have listened to you. Maybe I should have paid a little bit more attention. Maybe I should have done what you asked me to do instead of following the crowd. Say all this only to point out that there's going to be a lot of verbal clutter around you as we come into this period of time in which we transition from results coming out of one exam and into the next group of students taking the next bar. Regardless of what your situation is, keep your eye focused on what you're doing. Keep focused on where you're going. If you're in our course, structure and the mechanics we've laid out for you. But if you're just starting out in your studies, you're going to want to focus on the simple structure and mechanics more so than the substantive legal study at this stage. There'll be plenty of substantive legal work to be done, I assure you, in our course at least. But for right now, you need to learn how to do things as much as what you need to learn in the way of specific theory. And when you get these distractions, you get the well-meaning know-it-all comments from people who don't actually know it all. Just ask yourself, what's this person's expertise? Did they take the bar and fail it multiple times? If so, does that really make them an expert now? How long was it that they took the bar? Do they do it for a living? Do they have any connection? Did they just post on the internet and being a hater? One of my students said to me, the haters are going to hate and there's not much you can do about it. And if you don't have haters, you're not doing anything to make the world better. And I think there's probably some truth about that. There are haters out there for every bar review course. I would not put a lot of attention on any of that. I would focus on what the course is offering and making sure that it's sending you in the right direction for what you need. Look, don't let all of that distraction drive you into a fit of jelly donut eating. Stay on track, stay in course, continuing following the approach and the information, certainly if you're in our course. But I think that if you can get through this period of time, this couple-week window when we start to transition, with a minimum of distraction, you're going to be just fine. And as we get closer to the exam, there'll be more work to do. But for right now, a matter of taking one step and then the next step and then the next step. Don't get too far ahead of yourself. Don't try to get it all done this week. It's not necessary. Won't really help you. And that's real advice from somebody who really knows what they're really talking about. And it's not alternative facts. Have a great week of study. And if you've got questions and you'd like to know more, there's a spot on this page where you can reach out to me and I'd be glad to talk to you. I hope you have a great week and we'll talk again soon.